This week on FUT Weekly.
24 want-to-watch SBCs deep, I joined Pack Openers Anonymous.
We talk dealing with a high press, and no, Berahino has not just become a journalist.
We dig our teeth into brand new league SBCs.
3 whole squads, 65 players, we look at a flood of exciting new cards.
As always, we talk through the team of the week, player of the week, and informed impressions.
Woof. What a week it's been, Horace.
Yeah, I mean, so many cards to keep an eye on. Ones to watch, you might say, Ben.
Love it. Yeah, I mean, we have had, well, you've certainly had a lot of one-to-watch items to watch.
Yeah, I kind of got a bit obsessive with the with the summer one-to-watch untradeable SBC. I've done it 24 times.
That is a lot of commitment.
That's quite a lot. I have rinsed my club of what would have been normally kind of discard 82 rated cards.
So did you have quite a lot? Because I found that I could only do it maybe 4 or 5 times before
I think before I had to buy any more cards, I did it 15 or 20 times. I had a lot of stuff in my club that I just had been vaguely thinking I was hoarding for league SBCs, and then this came along, and within my first 10 I got Higuain twice, Hummels and Mane.
Wow.
Held on to Hummels, Mane and the first Higuain, and when I got the second untradeable Higuain I was thinking, shit, I'm going to have to discard him. And I think I've seen quite a few people who have done that. They've done this untradeable SBC several times, and they get a high rated player they'd normally keep as a duplicate, untradeable, and they're on console, and the only way out of it on console is to discard it. But I found a workaround where if you just shut down your console on that page without assigning the item, go into the companion app, that doesn't lock you into the
the screen where you have to
assign the item. You can go back into the SBCs, you can submit your version that's in your club to the SBC again, and then deal with the untradeable item.
Yeah.
I actually had a moment of panic after submitting one of my Higuains. So I got the second Higuain, had it there as an item to assign in my companion app. Didn't do that. Did the SBC again with the other Higuain. I think I got Gaetan out of it. And then went back to the assign item page, and it was telling me that I still had a duplicate in my club and I couldn't store it. And so I had a moment of panic where I was thinking, oh God, I'm going to have to get rid of both of them. But I just rebooted the app, and it worked. It just kind of hadn't
registered.
It hadn't registered that the other Higuain was gone. So that was a moment of relief.
Yeah, but that's really good. So I think, if you end up getting an untradeable, I guess any one-to-watch item, because they are worth about 40, 50k. Yeah. At least until the offers or the SBC finishes, then you can do that to make sure you don't waste it.
Yeah, but I got them within my first 10, and then a couple of SBCs later, maybe my 15th, I think, I got Miralem Pjanic. So he was another one I held on to.
Who I actually got within my 7th. So, well.
Yeah. Since then, however, I have had a kind of cascade of shit, really. Yeah. Just nothing good. I had Alisson in my last 10. I had Alisson twice, Milik, Morata. I've currently got Umtiti.
I had him twice, actually. Bailey twice, and which was kind of weird because I also packed Bailey. Sorry, I mean Bailly, the Manchester United player, but I also packed Bailey. So at one point I had like a 5 minutes where I got like 3 Baileys or Ballies.
Or Baileys.
Yeah.
Telling you something. Go get some Irish cream.
Yeah.
Nice. But yeah, so I kind of have now done it 24 times. I've got Higuain, Pjanic, Mane out of it, who I've held on to, who between the three of them, if they return to the sorts of prices they were before this, would be kind of 500k worth of player.
Yeah.
Or more even. But I've probably submitted, in terms of tradable gold players for it, maybe 200k, 250k. So
yeah, I guess you kind of, in a way, you got the money out, but it's just not exactly the players you want.
But as always with an untradeable SBC, those coins are then locked.
Yeah.
And of course, I haven't hit Dembele, Pogba, or Kante, who are the 3 that you would really want, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of possibly doing a few more, but yeah, we'll talk a bit more about the market impact with Jamie at FUT_economist a little bit later in the show. But in terms of prices for those, it seems that they've kind of raised quite sharply over the last couple of days. So there's a chance you'll be able to get them. I think you should be able to get them a bit cheaper come tonight's Team of the Week release.
Yeah, I mean, Team of the Week release tonight. There's always some packs get opened then, and the big one will be Weekend League rewards, which coming tomorrow at 6 p.m, Thursday 6 p.m. UK time, which is a new update. EA have given us a kind of notification they gave everyone at the end of this weekend's Weekend League, saying they're going to have a standardised time for weekly rewards, which is quite useful.
But also, because it's standardised time, it will probably lead to a bigger effect on the market, I'd imagine, because 6 p.m. is quite a busy time for people, for FIFA, especially in the UK. You've got to bear in mind that that's when most people, some people will be back from work, and a lot of people will be back from school if they're at school. So you could see quite a big impact on the market from a 6 p.m. release that they've actually kind of identified the time as well will really make an impact.
Well, yeah, just the certainty of it as well. I think kind of the fact that it always fluctuated slightly meant if it was going into the evening, obviously a large chunk of the people that play Ultimate Team are based in the UK or at least in Europe. And when it was sometimes as late as sort of 11 p.m. or even early hours of the morning in Europe and the UK, people there didn't open them until the next morning. And so that kind of mitigated the impact on the market. Whereas if everyone knows it's at 6 p.m. in the UK, which is a time a lot of people in the States, or people in the States will be up, though they may be at work, kind of more people will be opening the packs in a more concentrated period of time, probably.
Yeah, exactly. So that would be quite an interesting thing to see this week, and probably a very good time to pick up your players for those want-to-watch SBCs. I think, overall, I think it's a very good SBC. It kind of has trimmed the market, taken players off, but at the same time, quite an achievable rinse and repeat.
Yeah, I mean, the technique of just doing the untradeable one over and over again, because once you've got one to watch card, if you get another discard one to watch out of it, you can just plug them back in, and so the cost is the players that you put around them to make the squad high enough rated. Overall, so as I said, I did it 24 times. I think I calculated roughly about 9 of those were maybe worth keeping, and 5, including the double Higuain, were kind of very good, which isn't a terrible rate of return.
No, that's really not
sort
that
of
bad.
like roughly a third, just over a third, were kind of ones I would probably want to keep, or ones that I wouldn't mind having in my club, and about a fifth were top tier, though obviously did miss out on Dembele, Pogba and Kante.
And obviously, and I guess you've always got a chance of getting those, so maybe it is worth it. And think about how much those players would cost. Maybe there is good value there. But the other thing to add is that obviously there was also the option of doing the summer one, slightly lower overall requirement, so a bit cheaper to do. But I mean, the players weren't particularly spectacular. I think we're going to talk more about them in our sort of player review section when we talk about Team of the Week, etc. We can talk about the summer, winter one to watch cards. The summer one to watch cards are obviously very good and probably better value despite the slightly higher cost.
Yeah, it's slightly harder to do, but a much higher proportion of those cards are decent cards to use in the game, really. I mean, speaking of using them, I built a team around Higuain and Pjanic.
I've made a team around Pjanic and also Informed Muriel, who we might chat about later.
Yeah. I mean, I say built a team. It's a Serie A team. No fancy use of hybrid squad building there.
How disappointing.
I'm sorry. But I've quite enjoyed him. He's pretty good.
Yeah, he is very good. Great shooting. He feels very good on the ball. Feels slightly quicker and more agile than I expected as well.
Yeah.
But he's not a quick player. He's not much. Marquisio, I guess, is the equivalent.
Yeah.
He's not that kind of player, but he's pretty good.
Pjanic, this is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking about Higuain.
Fantastic. We just had a parallel conversation there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with what you're saying on Pjanic.
Okay.
Higuain, I was going to say, feels a bit less agile.
Yeah.
But it was nice to try him out. He was a bit disappointing having used the Player of the Month Ibra. But
this is all stuff for the next section.
All stuff for the player reviews.
So what have we kind of gained? Well, actually, I mean, we've had quite a few questions about sort of gameplay related things, especially midfield players.
Yeah.
There was a conversation I think you were involved with El Davincini.
At El Davincini,
who asked some very interesting questions about the use of midfield players specifically.
Yeah, he was kind of saying, is it possible this year? Kind of, do you just have to have all-rounder midfielders? Is it ever better to have sort of specialised players in your midfield? And I was talking about how sort of Mesut Ozil, obviously not against Chelsea this past weekend, can be one of the best playmakers in the world, but he's often referred to as a luxury player, even in real life. In Ultimate Team, I think you really can't sort of afford to have him in your midfield because he's never going to win a shoulder to shoulder, and he's not that quick. And his passing skills, they're not so excellent, or his passing isn't as important in Ultimate Team as it is in real life. And you can kind of have a greater impact on the effectiveness of your team by having someone, say, like Rooney, who is maybe not quicker, but so much stronger than him, even though he's got less passing.
And I remember previous years you've seen quite a lot of, like, you'd see Mata in central midfield and things like that.
Yeah. Even
in like a 4-3-3-4, so that's with the 2 CMs and a cam, sometimes people would be playing like Mata in one of the CM roles and things like that. But you don't see that anymore, and I think physicality is a huge factor this year. But also he kind of made this point that it's somewhat disappointing because you're not really able to play with the players you want. You're basically forced into using certain midfielders, players like Sanchez, Kante, who kind of have that hustle, the stamina as well. Which is, I agree, I think it's slightly disappointing. It's not reflective of the real game. Players like Iniesta, 88 rated in FIFA, but it might as well be 79 rated because they're not effective players. Yeah. Nobody would use them in a weekend league because they don't have that physicality, basically, and there'd be a liability in your midfield.
And I think one of the most striking things I've noticed is you need midfielders who are all-rounders, but that doesn't even necessarily mean they need good defending stats.
Yeah,
I've
that's
come
a
up
really
against
good point.
quite a few people who've used a team of their whole front six. So they've got a classic back four, but then all their midfielders and all their forward players are strikers. And the strikers, some of them were sometimes
Diego Costa, central midfield.
I came up against a guy with a 4-3-2-1, and he had second in form Romelu Lukaku converted to centre mid, and he was a nightmare to play against. It's so strong, so fast, and as we were saying before, passing stats beyond a certain point don't make a massive impact. And defensive stats. It's more about the physicals.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily they don't have any impact, it's just the physicals just so much more important.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously defending stats do help massively. Kind of, you notice the difference between players who have excellent tackling and players who don't. But a lot of the time, just hustle, high speed, high pace of gameplay can win you the ball against maybe not such good players. That being said, I did actually, in this team that I was using, get the chance to use Raja Nainggolan for the first time this year. And it was quite bizarre. I was basically getting players out of my club just to put together a quick Serie A team. And I was searching for central midfielders, and I saw I had Raja Nainggolan, and I didn't remember buying him. And I checked, and sure enough, it was a first owner card. And I definitely didn't remember packing him. But I think at some point over the past week or so, I must have packed him in a pack and just not noticed, which I don't think I've ever done with a player worth I think it's like 40k or something. I mean, so it's not like an unbelievable amount of coins, but still, it was a pleasant surprise. I think what it was, this was something actually worth mentioning on just before we kind of completely leave the one to watch stuff behind. When they went into packs last Friday at 6 p.m. They didn't actually go into packs, did they? There was a bit of a screw up from EA where for quite a while people just, even in the SBC where you're meant to get the winter one to watch cards, people weren't getting them. People were getting random gold rare cards. So EA screwed up, and obviously so many people had opened so many packs there, they couldn't do a server rollback because people would get unbelievably angry if people had packed brilliant players in that time. So they just refunded everyone, or just gave everyone the packs they'd opened in that time again.
That period, which
and I got quite lucky. I'd hoarded a bunch of packs. I had my weekend league rewards. So I had like a couple of 100k packs, like a mega pack, a couple of premium gold players packs, like all the ones from marquee matchups that weekend. And then I woke up quite early the next morning and suddenly saw I had all these packs to open. And I think I must have been half asleep, and I just spam through them all. And so that's probably when it happened. I just didn't notice because we got that second chance at those packs, and I think I was kind of half asleep.
That was pretty good. That it's basically like having another weekend league.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I got to open 4 100k packs, which I mean, if you're buying that with FIFA points, that's like 50 quid or something. Yeah. So that was quite nice. But so I've got to use Raja Nainggolan, which is the point of this story. Who is one of the best all-round midfielders. I mean, it's not his second in form, which just looks like a ridiculously good card, but you really do feel the difference But I think, again, a big part of that is that he's so strong and physical. So, I don't know.
So, interestingly, kind of on this topic, obviously that's all about, someone like Nyangaland is all about sort of aggressive play, pressing, and that's what a lot of people, one of the reasons why someone like Ozil is going to be much worse than someone like Sanchez or Kante, because you can really press someone quite hard. And
tenacity.
That tenacity is important. Also, the kind of grab circle they have, if you like, around the players is quite large on those players with like good reactions, interceptions, and pace, and also large sort of body sizes. But I think what's quite interesting is we've had a recent question from Scott Perry at SEP Farm D, and he was saying that one of the problems that he's been having is with people who press really strongly, really aggressive,
very high pressure.
Yeah, exactly, and those players tend to use these players that we've been talking about. And what he's kind of asking is what's the kind of way to deal with that. And I think that what I found really effective is when you play a wide formation, you're going to struggle to do this if you're playing the narrow 4-3-1-2 variants with two strikers. But if you're playing wingers, then just switching the play is unbelievably effective against that, because obviously they're pressing into a corner or whatever. You just ping the ball to your left back or your left winger from the right, and you're away, and the press is not going to do anything because it's on the other side of the pitch.
Yeah, it kind of takes some time to shift over. So I think you want to, what can be a trap to fall into with that is to think to yourself, okay, I'll play slowly, carefully, and play safe passes. And often, as soon as you think I'll try and slow the game down because they're going super high pressure, that's when you can get caught. You need to still be playing passes quickly, but looking to play it back and work it round. And as Ben says, switching the play is massive because their whole team has to shift over to be.
Yeah, and that drains the stamina as well.
Exactly. It tires them out. So I think that's probably the best way of doing that. And you were talking about the using a wide formation. I think that can be very important. If you find yourself really struggling against an opponent, have a look at what formation they're playing and try to, in game, have like one or two possible reworks for your team.
Definitely.
That you know how to switch to quickly. So typically, if your opponent's playing a narrow 4-3-1-2 variant, switching to some kind of 4-3-3 can be really effective.
Or if you're confident with it, like a 3-5-2 sometimes works, especially if you're losing in the later stages.
Yeah.
Because they've got three attackers, you've got three attackers, you just go man-to-man at the back.
Yeah.
And then you've got loads of options up front. So yeah, I think that's a really good point. What I think you want to try and do is look at what they're playing and then try and respond to that. Another good point is if they've got, if they're playing sort of three across the midfield as centre mids, they basically they don't have a CDM, often having a cam in your team make a huge difference. So exposed in the central area often in that kind of formation.
Yeah, I found, because I think earlier this year there was a period where I used 4-3-2-1 so like for several weekend leagues in a row, and something I would do in the first minute, if this is before the updates,
where you can't change positions,
but if I saw I was playing against any formation that had a centre attacking mid or a centre forward, I would shift my central centre mid in that formation back to CDM in the first minute. And just because otherwise there's so much space between your midfield and defence for a centre attacking mid to expose.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, the flip side of that is use a formation with a cam if they don't have a CDM.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, just quickly before we move on, going back to the sort of high pressure stuff, what people often do is go quite high pressure after you've scored. So they're kind of wanting to go on the front foot. And we were talking before, I know you had quite a good little tactic which kind of combines with the update recently.
Yeah, so they tweaked a whole load of things with kind of gameplay and also how FUT Champions works, and one of them was to essentially kind of nerf Park the Bus, or at least stop it being such a deep line that your team plays.
Yeah, I think they adjusted the position of the attackers as well so they're not so high up the pitch.
Which made
it a bit more balanced.
And I had never really used Park the Bus before that update. I would go ultra defensive if I was trying to defend a lead, but I found Park the Bus sat my defence too deep, and it just didn't really work with how I like to attack. But what I found just in the last week or so since that tweak is often just after I score, almost every time I'll go Park the Bus until I regain possession, because you do find that people will often just rush you straight after you've scored. They want to get back quickly, and I mean I do it myself, and I find actually like it's relatively common that you can score almost straight after conceding. And I think for a while there's been like a bit of a problem with how the defending team in that situation is set up. Like your players didn't seem to sort of wake up properly after the kickoff. They because your whole team was forced into one half, the positioning of a whole load of players would be slightly off and the gaps were too big between them.
And I'd sometimes have my CDM up with the strikers at kickoff,
and
the wingers filling in as CDM, stuff like that. So definitely think going past part of the bus will help a lot.
I just found using Park the Bus allows you to be that bit more compact straight after kickoff. You can win the ball back and then switch back to however you wanted to play. Otherwise,
it's probably also a psychological thing, because I do sometimes find, especially when I'm playing an opponent who's not so good, after I've scored, I'm like, oh yeah, gave him the bag. Like, So then maybe doing that kind of makes you think, I need to set up and make sure that I'm prepared for his kickoff.
Yeah, and I mean, just a point on the kind of mindset and how you're thinking when you're playing. If you're in like quite a competitive situation like FUT Champions, just the worst possible thing you can think is in maybe kind of early on in the second half, if you've got a couple of goals ahead, start thinking about the next game. Just never do that, because
as soon as you're like, oh yeah, that's another win. Like
the second you think, if you're kind of thinking about your win total, say you've got a target in mind, and the second you're still playing a game and you chalk up that game as a current win, that current game as a win, then the concentration just goes, and like I often will concede like very shortly after that thought process.
Yeah, exactly. I know what you mean. It's always kind of, once you think it's in the bag, it's not, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. It falls straight out of it.
Yeah, and I think so. Just to summarise, obviously, good points there. So switching the play, hugely useful. For avoiding high pressure, and obviously also target men can help. Hit it straight up to the front man, kind of Manchester United with Fellaini sometimes this season. And then also making sure that you're fully focused, but especially from kickoff and going part of the bus with the new patched part of the bus seems to be quite effective. So give that a go and let us know how it went. And you can do that on Twitter at FootWeeklyPod.
Yeah, we always love to get your feedback. And I think now we're going to have a quick break, after which we will be joined for some market analysis and trading chat with Jamie at @FUT_Economist. Well, welcome back, and let's get straight into it. How's it going, Jamie?
Good. How are you guys?
Not too bad, actually.
Yeah, not too bad. And I know you've come themed for this chat with your Barca t-shirt on there.
I have.
Obviously, you had quite a large SBC involving a particular Barca striker.
Yeah,
that's not Paco Alcacer. No giveaways there. So yeah, we'll talk about that a bit later.
Yeah, we'll move on to that. But let's just start with kind of quick recap of what's gone on in the market since we last spoke, because there have been some pretty big things.
Yeah, certainly. Lots of pretty big developments. I mean, the big talking point is obviously the one-to-watch SBC. The summer and the winter are tradable and untradeable. Sort of what that's done to the market. I mean, you've seen that the 80 through 84 rated players have jumped pretty massively in price. It was sort of strange they didn't jump at all in the beginning of the week, because they haven't had enough time to sort of take the supply off the market. But as we've gotten into later in the week, their prices have jumped pretty significantly. Most of them have jumped by about at least 100%, which is a pretty good increase if you're looking to sell on some of those junk cards in your club. Same thing with some of the some of the cheap rare golds, because of the 81 plus they've jumped up slightly, maybe a 10 to 15% increase. And then the big talking points for people like you and me who are looking to build like these super powerful weekend league teams that are ultra competitive, the big name players like the guys like Ronaldo and Messi and Humidir players, legends, high power informs, they've all taken a substantial hit because of, we've talked about this before, but with these these increasingly powerful man of the match batches and one to watches and all these cards that could be potentially substitutes for the high powered informs. People are more willing to sell on their liquidate their clubs, and I think that's why we've seen that a lot of these big name players have actually dropped a lot in price.
I was going to say, I have unfortunately had 3 legends for a while. I've got good use out of them, but I bought Crespo not so long ago now, and he was like 570k, and he's now 670k, and he's now I think 570. But what do you see any chance of legends rising? I think there'll be a few people obviously not PS players interested in this, but I think a few players will be interested in knowing whether those are going to rise again.
Right. I mean, you can sort of apply like legends and other sort of end game players, like high end team of the weeks, and the guys like Ronaldo and Messi. I do think you can count on them rebounding a little bit, but I don't think the rebound is going to be as sharp as it was for something like Team of the Year.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things that they're sort of fighting against, if you will, as we get later into the season, into the life cycle of FUT. The amount of competitive Team of the Week cards and Man of the Match releases and etc. that are being released are increasing, and because EA have been so generous with the upgrades this year, I think you're going to see that most people, this Team of the Week that we have coming out, is extremely competitive, and just that alone is an example of why someone might prefer not to buy someone like Aguero, who has dropped substantially in price, and they might prefer to buy the informed Lukaku. So just because of that, and then the fact that I think things were generally overpriced after Team of the Year. I think we've talked about this before, how I think there was sort of this overreaction of people that were, that just went out and, had this like, okay, this is the time, this is the only time I'm going to be able to build my super team. And then combine that with the fact that it looks like they've started to crack down on the coin glitch. If you go into the leaderboards right now, a lot of the big accounts that have 0 wins and 30,000 ties and whatever have actually been deleted or aren't actually making the ratio of the amount of coins that they're making has dropped significantly. So either they've smarted up and figured out how to make it so that they fly under the radar a bit more, or they just stopped doing it / have been banned.
Well, that's very, very promising, isn't it? Overall, and also, I suppose you're saying that means going forward we're likely to see maybe a bit of a rebound, a small rebound, but then longer term I imagine players like Legends and top rated, not informs, at least by team of the season, of course, they're going to end up quite low because there are so many other options.
Well, I think that's something that's kind of happened this year in general. As Jamie was saying, there are kind of more elite level players than we've ever seen before by this stage of the game. And particularly with Legends, there are, in a lot of the positions, the only thing the Legend is really offering is the fact that it links with everyone. They're kind of better players in almost all positions, outside of kind of Hullet, Vieira, Best, sort of outside of the very top tier Legends, Del Piero.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting. I have my fingers crossed that some of them will be bound just because of the well, that would really help. But also because obviously they do have that kind of link to everyone, which other cards can't provide. So hopefully a few people will want to get some players into their teams, which they wouldn't be able to otherwise. Fingers crossed anyway.
Yeah. And you mentioned in your recap there quickly the one-to-watch SBCs, which has had quite a dramatic impact on kind of all the one-to-watch cards. Sort of they were all around 50k for a while. The kind of one-to-watch cards that people actually wanted to pick up, and a lot of them maybe dipped slightly more than they should have done. Do you think any of those are still underpriced?
Yeah, I mean, we've actually seen in the past, I mean, we're recording this on Wednesday. In the past 2 days, we've seen them rebound pretty substantially. Well, not substantially, but they've rebounded. But before that, I mean, some of the summer one-to-watch, heavy hitters like Pogba, Kante, and Dembele had dropped, I think, way below what they would sort of go at their watermark, if you will, for the rest of the game. One thing to keep in mind, I see a lot of people are sort of jumping on this bandwagon of one-to-watch investing and seeing that a lot of them have dropped something like 50% in price, and like, well, I've got to get out and buy these guys because they're going to rebound all the way back to their price before. I don't think that's necessarily a guarantee, and I think the rebound is going to be dampened. Because again, like if you think about it, these one-to-watch cards only have so much value now at this point in the year because they only can get an upgrade up till the end of their seasons because the only thing that affects their cards are the Team of the Week cards. So essentially, these guys have an expiration date of, I mean, a lot of their seasons end in May. The Bundesliga, Barclays, the Premier League, not Barclays, the Premier League, Liga Santander, I believe, ends in May as well. So if any of those cards, they can't get another inform, or they can't get another upgrade. So at some point, they're not going to be worth any more than their highest inform. So it's just something to keep in mind.
And I mean, if you calculate it, you've only got 8 to 12 weeks, and that's only a certain number of sort of elite slots in a team of the week over that period as well. So and also you've then got to bear in mind that they are going to get an inform anyway, which obviously you can buy. So
Yeah.
you kind of almost
Exactly.
they kind of almost have to get two for it to be worth it, or already have an inform affecting that one to watch, I think. Oh, and yeah, we've got quite an exciting card actually, Gabriel Jesus. Of course, likely to get an inform today on our day of recording. He's been quite expensive though, hasn't he? For for a 78 rated card.
Sort of, I mean, in my opinion, a bit ridiculous how much people are paying for him, but that's the power of hype, I suppose. I mean, a couple people have done videos on him, likening him to, Ibrahimovic because of his 5-star skills at a striker position, but like it's a little bit ridiculous, I think, just because, he is 78 rated at the moment. He could get it, I mean, he could get a pretty substantial boost with this team of the week, which would be nice, but I really don't think you can justify paying 500k for something like that.
No.
And the other thing is that that I really don't. I mean, okay, his normal card should get an inform, but I mean, with 81 informs, there's not that many that actually really kind of do the business, if you know what I mean. 81, 82 informs, like the stats, like his finishing is not going to be that amazing, and if you're looking at like an elite team. You're not. I don't think many people are going to be able to deal with that finishing unless they're playing him out wide.
Yeah,
Right.
I also quite like the idea of an Ibrahimovic comparison when he's like 5'9" with about 40 strength. Or something.
yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so clearly Jesus going to be one that lots of people think they want to pick up, but probably not actually worth it.
Yeah.
Might
It'll be
turn out to
interesting.
quite
I imagine his
disappointing
price
card.
will just slowly slump as the.
Yeah, there's something to bear in mind with him. The inform itself will only be in packs from Friday. It'll still be the one to watch.
It'll be like in
until then,
Bolo, won't it?
like in Bolo. So it'll be quite a hard to come by inform, but less significant because it won't be a position change like that in Bolo was.
That's true.
Okay, yeah, that sort of covers us on ones to watch. I guess the one other thing quickly to note on the winter ones is just how few of them are actually nice looking cards, kind of attractive
Yeah.
prospects. Kind of, there are a lot of them, but there's a lot of crap in there.
And I don't really see any of them being particularly valuable, really. I mean, apart from Draxler, who's obviously a central.
Jackson, maybe.
Yeah.
And if Depay does, if he does something at his new club, but other than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a video going around over the weekend where the title was Depay scores incredible overhead kick on debut in League One. And it's him just completely fucking up an overhead kick. He kind of scuffs it and it goes like 2 yards.
Oh man,
A bit of clickbait going on there. So something we should probably talk about that what we mentioned at the start of this segment that dropped last night, the La Liga SBC for that very nice looking 94 rated Luis Suarez card. Also a Scottish League SBC, but that's much less interesting. I mean, is there anything significant to note on this Suarez thing? Do you think at the moment he's good value, underpriced, overpriced?
yeah. I mean, just sort of off the bat, it's going to run you about 715. It's going to run you about 715k on Xbox and about 100k less on PS4. In my opinion, super high powered, super high priced SBCs like this generally aren't worth it unless you're sure that you're going to use this card for the rest of the game in your team. Just, trading in 700k, like you can, if you think about it, if you buy an informed Suarez, he's probably going to be a little bit more expensive, but you can also have the option to sell that card on. When it comes time for team of the season, then you can get all those coins back and you can put it into a different player. So it's quite a commitment to put 700k into a card like this. In general, for those of you that are thinking about doing it, I know there's a lot of Barca fans out there that are that would be willing to shell out much more than 700k for an SBC Suarez. A lot of the silver cards are going to be really expensive and they're going to stay expensive. There's a couple right and left backs, right and left mids that are on teams where that is the only option. You can only get silver players in that position, or there's only 1 or 2 gold players. So they're going to be very expensive. Some of the gold players have shot up sort of pretty high already. I anticipate that as the year goes on, that they're going to get much cheaper just because of all the times that they're going to be put in packs. I think something that you might want to be waiting for is EA will occasionally just sort of release promo silver packs sort of out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And people in the trading community have actually started to do, and really the rest of the community have actually started to try out, sort of similar to like the bronze pack method, they've been trying a silver pack method. Just because as more league SBCs are dropped, it's becoming more and more valuable to try something like that. And I've seen that people are starting to actually break even or make some profit by doing that method.
So, and just for those who don't know, the bronze pack method was essentially paying for packs with coins, your bronze pack, and then selling the contents with the idea that actually things like fitness cards, especially healing cards, you can make a lot of profit on the packs. And so people think that might be possible with the silver packs. Now there are so many kind of high demand silver players that aren't even, I guess, rare, some of them.
Yeah, I mean, at some point you hit critical mass of silver players that are useful for an SBC that people actually want to complete.
Yeah,
so a sufficient number of those packs will have something worthwhile.
But I mean, in a bit more detail on that that SBC, I've actually started doing it because I had quite a few. Because there was a Liga Santander untradeable pack out during Team of the Year, and so I did quite a few of those. And it actually left me with, conveniently, some of the most expensive silver left back and right backs for the league. So it's weird how stuff like that happens. I've also been on the lookout for a striker. So and also I really like Neymar. So I've figured that I'm actually probably going to do it. So the other thing about it is one of the most expensive aspects is Atletico Madrid, because as well as having a high-rated Atletico Madrid squad, you need either Griezmann or you need a special card, either Gamero, Inform, or maybe Felipe Luis, the left back special card,
or Godin has a couple,
or one of Godin's ones, which is pretty expensive. So those are your options. But what I realised is I could actually submit my SBC Juan Fran into it, and that makes my SBC Juan Fran kind of valued at, I guess, the price of Griezmann, which is about 130k or something. So he's great, but he's definitely not 130k of player. So I think that might be worth it. And Montoya looks very good, actually. We talked about him not so long ago. So with that in mind, I've kind of started doing it. And actually, there aren't that many silvers required for it, which is quite good. But I imagine that silvers that are required are going to shoot up in price over the next week or so. But do you think that I'll be all right kind of holding out for some of these higher rated Atletico and Real Madrid and Barcelona players? Do you think they'll drop as we go forward?
I do think they'll drop. I mean, you saw it with the Lacazette SBC. As soon as that dropped, there was a bunch of players that sort of shot up in price, and then just sort of as the year went on, his just in general the price of his SBC dropped significantly. I think you'll see the same or similar thing happen with this one.
Yeah, that's pretty promising. Exactly what I wanted to hear. You can come again next week. I think that's perfect. And in terms of SBCs, of course, there's another significant one on Friday, I guess.
Yeah, we should be getting the Player of the Month for the Premier League. I think Dele Alli won the vote amongst fans and people. But obviously that only contributes about 10% of the decision. Do you think he is going to get it? Putting you on the spot.
Yeah. I mean, barring anything crazy from the panel, I do think he's got a pretty good chance of getting it. Obviously, he played extremely well for Spurs this past month, but I think it's either him or Kane. Yeah. Which is I think they're pretty. I don't want to say locks because then it's going to be someone else if I actually say that. But I think they have a very good chance of winning it. Yeah. In terms of investing, if you're still looking to invest, I guess there's some sneaky ways you could still invest. Obviously, the obvious ways to invest were Spurs players, English players, and the Spurs informs. A lot of them have risen just a little bit. If you are risk adverse, you could sell into the hype if you wanted. But you could also look at MK Dons, which is his previous team. That's actually already risen. So if you had MK Dons players, I'd sell those too. But other than that, it's kind of tough to invest in a Player of the Month SBC for this because he is such a, I don't know if kosher is the right word, but he's such like a plain kind of card. He doesn't have a whole lot of clubs he's played for before this. A possibilities that they might do, I haven't done my research on this yet, but they have done in the past for previous Players of the Month SBCs a requirement where they have you turn in a team that combines the players from teams that they've played in that month that Spurs have played in that month.
Yeah. I think, was it the Hazard one did that possibly?
Yeah, so that'd be quite a good candidate for it if there's not much else in his history to fall back.
Yeah.
But interestingly, he wouldn't be a really kind of big draw compared with someone like Hazard or obviously Ibrahimovic. What kind of, if there's an inform requirement, do you think any informs will gain in price for this? Like, do you think we'll have a Premier League inform boost. Or
yeah, I mean, as you said, this is not going to be a huge draw. He's not going to be a super. I mean, for someone like me who's a Spurs fan, I'm definitely going to do this pretty much no matter what. Even if they corner something really specifically, say they corner like an informed Trippier for whatever reason, or you have to turn in an informed Dele Alli, I don't know, something crazy. Then obviously, but just in general, I don't see this crazily affecting anything in particular.
So I mean, this will probably be an 85 rated card if his inform's 83 currently, following the pattern of upgrades that EA tend to do. We'll have to see.
So it could be a bit of a damp squib, as we say, of SPC, but we'll see.
So yeah, that kind of covers Player of the Month. Another thing coming up, I think next Tuesday is Valentine's Day. Love is in the air. Will we see
much love from EA?
Much love from EA. Will they give us some exciting stuff to sink our teeth into?
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, they did something last year for Valentine's Day. I believe they did a tournament. Obviously, this year they won't do a tournament because of FUT champs. But so Valentine's Day is coming on the 14th. Everyone get ready. Go get your roses and whatnot. I anticipate that if they follow the same pattern as last year, that we'll have a promotion starting the 13th, so that Monday, and then heading into that Wednesday on the 15th. Although they could just totally change it up, or maybe not do even one at all. In terms of, people are thinking there'd be an SBC. Just in general, I think that EA are probably going to take a break after this one to watch SBC, or at least just focus on something completely different. Because I don't think they want to hit the market again with putting pressure on the 83, 84 rated cards.
Yeah.
If they were to do anything, there's some speculation that they'll do it with Hearts players, or players that make heart celebrations when they score, so someone like Bale or Di Maria, which would be really cool. But I don't know. Yeah. I'm not sure that they would want to do two high-powered SBCs back-to-back, just sort of based on what they did with FUTmas and how they took a break for a pretty extended period of time before doing anything significant again. That being said, we'll probably see promos. I've heard some rumors floating around that they might do the half-price coins again, but really, we're not really sure what this is going to be. So,
especially as the market seems to be relatively stable, and there's not crazy inflation like we saw over that period. Right. So I wouldn't thought they'd try and do that. But maybe we'll just see like quite a simple SBC. I don't know whether there's a kit on the cards or what, but yeah. So maybe it won't be anything too fancy.
Just get a straightforward one of those.
Yeah. I mean, you feel like if it was a week in advance of that, you're bound to see something exciting, but that just feels a bit close, doesn't it? But
it has been sort of non-stop for the last week and a half now already. Kind of special releases.
Yeah. Pretty impressive. So is there anything else you want to add to our chat today?
Other than the fact that winter upgrades are probably going to be coming out, the first batch of them this Friday.
Of course,
That's I mean, that's pretty much, I think that covers it. I mean, winter upgrades should be pretty exciting. A lot of the super high-powered guys are probably going to get some pretty cool upgrades. Someone like Mertens or maybe even Lukaku, or a bunch of other guys could get some pretty juicy upgrades. But I'm looking forward to it. Should be an interesting Friday.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thanks as always for talking to us, Jamie. It was really good to get your insights on that stuff, and we'll chat again next week.
Yeah, of course. It's been a pleasure as always. Thanks for having me on, guys. See you next week.
Well, welcome back again. Another bonus break, so we've had 2 so far. We're feeling pretty revitalised, and we're ready to get into that team of the week, all our player reviews, and the other good stuff we tend to get onto at this kind of time in the pod. But before that, we've got news about other guests. Obviously, we haven't managed to get Japes in this week, but I think he should be along next week. And the week after that, we've got Colin Johnson.
Yeah, so this is the guy we've been in touch with. He ran the first ever live broadcast FIFA League, including kind of world champion players. He's also been a player agent for around a dozen different pro players from across the EU and North American regions. And so we're going to have a chat with him, sort of looking at EA's push to make FIFA an esport, and kind of get the perspective of someone who's sort of very much part of that world on these developments, because it's all change. And obviously, we've had the first, we've just had the Paris regionals. I think there's rest of world next weekend, and in 2 weekends time it's North and South America, and EA did a whole load of coverage this past weekend. I'm sure you probably would have been aware of it. I don't know how many of you would have watched stuff that are part of it, but it's interesting stuff's going on.
Yeah, so we're really looking forward to that. So it should be in 2 weeks after we've had a few more regionals. But right now, it's time for the Team of the Week roundup. So Horace, it's over to you to take us through it.
Cheers. And what a team of the week we've got. I mean, the kind of headline has got to be those 3 Belgian players. 3rd in form Lukaku, 4th in form Mertens, 3rd in form Hazard. All 3 look absolutely phenomenal, almost best in position cards. Mertens, 94 pace, 92 dribbling, 91 shooting, 90 passing. That quad 90. Hazard also has those 4 stats all above 90. Slightly lower pace shooting, same passing. But much higher dribbling at 95. And the Lukaku, he's going to be such a tank. I think his finishing, he'll be a nightmare.
I mean, we talked about his other card.
Yeah, we spoke about his other card.
He's obviously just going to be that bit better.
Yeah, his only downside is quite low agility.
But that's been nicely boosted.
That would have been boosted a bit more here. Hamsik, another very nice card. Yet another brilliant central midfielder for Serie A, alongside Marco Parolo, who's got a card and inform now to match the SPC card he got during the Advent period. 75 pace, but everything else above 80. Looks awesome. Henrik Mkhitaryan, his second in form, position change to the left side. There was a lot of talk about this maybe being a cam, so that's a slight disappointment. But this card still looks awesome. 5-star weak foot as well. Important to bear in mind. Socrates, in the heart of defence. That's the second in form for him.
Crazy.
I've used his first in form quite a lot. Really, really good. This one, 70 dribbling, 63 passing. So sorting out the one weak point in his game.
Yeah, and also just he's looking like he's only 80k on Xbox, 110 on PlayStation. That is a steal for a defender with those kind of stats. If you put Anchor on him or even Shadow, he's going to be almost maxed out on defending and really, really high pace because he's 81 pace on the card.
Absolutely. A shout out to an 86 rated Jonas card, which sort of ruins the Liga NOS SBC because this card is available for under 30k, which is a lot less than that SBC costs. Radamel Falcao with a second in form that looks really nice. He's got some quite nice in-games on his dribbling, particularly very high agility, also 99 jumping and heading accuracy.
Yep.
And getting back to the glory days for him.
And also that Diego Castro is a Spanish left mid, plays in the Hyundai A-League in Australia, but he's 84 rated, but he's at discard at time of recording just after the Team of the Week's come out, so he could be a fantastic investment if there is ever a requirement for higher rated informs. That's going to be key, if there are no division requirements, of course. Yeah,
no, for sure. And looking, obviously, got Gabriel Jesus as well. So much hype around him, though the price of his one to watch card is tumbling as we speak, because people are, I think, kind of realising quite how overpriced that was.
Yeah.
It was sort of madness, really. We're still waiting on in-games for him, unfortunately, but I'm sure they'll be up fairly soon. And one of the silvers who definitely deserves a mention, El Yunusi, 5-star skills, 84 pace, 82 dribbling, 80 shooting.
70 physical as well.
Yeah, 70
I mean, I've used his not informed and he's quality, and the fact he's got a position change to right mid is going to be crucial because actually left mid he wasn't so useful. Players like Ario are left mid and probably better silvers, so that right mid option is going to be really, really good.
Yeah, he looks awesome. But yeah, Ben, who are you going to have a closer look at?
Well, I think after reviewing Muriel, as I mentioned, it's got to be Cuadrado because he's got 5-star skills, which I'm a big fan of, but he fills that right wing role, which actually there aren't a huge number of quality cards in the game, and being strong linked to Muriel helps loads, and also being Juventus player that helps loads, so he should be quite easy to link into your teams. Not only that, he's just he's one of those players that can kind of play anywhere depending on what chemistry style you put on him. His base acceleration and sprint speed are ridiculously high, 92 and 95, and his stamina is 88, so you can play him like right mid, you can play him right forward, you can play him right wing, no problems at all. He could be wider 3-5-2. His defending stats aren't awful, but I think where I'd look to play him was probably be right wing. He's got a good balance, so with something like Maestro, he's got 80 finishing but 97 shot power and 95 long shots after the goal he scored in the game. It's not so surprising, worth looking at that. He's also got maxed out dribbling, 91 ball control, 93 agility. 93 agility is just standard on his card. With Maestro, 92 short passing, so should be able to create your chances. And decent jumping and okay aggression, which can help. So I think he looks very good. And obviously, if you put something like Sniper on him, you're going to get up to 90 finishing, which is pretty impressive. So yeah, and obviously maxing out that agility, ball control, dribbling. So yeah, it's really good.
Quite a flexible card, and 5-star skills always very, very nice to
Yeah,
have.
and I think the only downside you're going to have with him is the 3-star skills.
3-star weak foot.
Sorry, 3-star weak foot, of course, which, it can be a letdown at times, but if you're playing him quite wide, rather than a right forward, I think you'll probably be okay. And to be honest, if you've got to play that quick and that good at dribbling, it doesn't matter too much.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, moving on to my pick, it's one who might be a bit awkward to work into a team, but I saw the card and I was like, I kind of really want to talk about that just because it looks like a really, really good card. And with Shadow Chem Style, he gets, according to Footbin's sort of position rating, he is above 80 everywhere on the pitch, but he shines in his own position, which is at fullback, where he gets a 90 in-game rating. But he's only an 83 rated card. It's Jetro Williams.
That's with Shadow, isn't it?
Yeah, with Shadow. Yeah, of course. And he has 4-star weak foot, 4-star skills, which is always awesome on a fullback. And with that Shadow Chem Style, he gets 94 acceleration, 95 sprint speed, 88 interceptions, 93 marking, 97 standing tackle, and 95 siding tackle.
Wow.
So, I mean, those are phenomenal stats. Chose to go with Shadow over Anchor because he has a perfectly acceptable 78 strength, awesome 94 jumping by default, and 84 stamina, which is pretty solid. On the ball, he'll feel really, really good over 80 agility and 91 balance, which is an excellent stat, as well as 83 short passing, 90 crossing, 83 vision. So you can offer quite a lot going forwards. And not to mention 78 long shots and 90 shot power.
That's nice.
So some really, really solid stats on him, actually. And the only problem really is working him into a team.
There are a few options. I mean, Frank Rickard, for example, is a CDM who you could possibly link off as a legend. Yeah. And if you don't, obviously on PlayStation or whatever, maybe the option of Gradado, the Mexican,
Mexican
centre mid, who strong links to him. So maybe there's some Mexicans you could bring in around Gradado, and then that would work nicely.
Yeah, just need I and Robin to get a position change to left-sided player and get a link up there into the Bundesliga. But yeah, I think he looks awesome, and he is already down at 13k.
Yeah, get him now. Cool. Well, that wraps that up.
Well, yeah, moving on from that, another squad of players that we had thrust upon us over the weekend was the AFCON team of the tournament. Almost kind of a surprise because it came out before the final. But there are some pretty nice players in here, actually, Ben. Do you want to talk us through it quickly?
Yeah, there are. I mean, I think the biggest player in the team is probably Salah. He's going for around 200k, and then you've got Mane as well. Both really, really strong right wingers, and I think Mane is probably one of the better players in the Premier League because it's a bit of a lack of quality right wingers.
Yeah,
there, and obviously there's been his one to watch now. So the only thing is, if he gets an inform, that one to watch is going to get
quite a hefty boost.
Quite a hefty boost, and obviously this card, it looks good, but he's got really poor stamina basically.
Yeah.
Which is unless you're playing him right forward, I think he not work so well actually. Which is a bit of a shame because he's kind of got that hustle about him. You would have thought he'd be quite stamina as well.
He is rapid.
Yeah. So that's a Premier League player, Serie A player. The other Serie A, of course, is Koulibaly. Koulibaly, obviously immensely strong, 96 strength on that card. And I mean, with Shadow, is going to be a really, really standout sort of tank of a centre-back.
Yeah, absolutely huge as well.
Yeah. He'd be really good. And the only thing is, obviously, on the ball, he's not so great and has high work rates. But the really, really interesting centre-back there is, of course, Amate.
Yeah, the guy from Leicester who has 89 physical, 80 pace, 78 defending on a 74 rated card.
Yeah, that's pretty unreal. I mean, the only thing is that I think a lot of that physical is in his stamina.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a downside. And then you've also got another Premier League player, El Mohammadi, who looks good.
Looks pretty solid, lacking in defence. He's a right back and his regular card's a right mid.
Yeah.
So he's probably actually one of the better attacking right backs in the Premier League. But 80 pace, 74 defending.
Yeah.
Might be...
Unless I suppose Shadow,
Yeah, Shadow does help that out.
But there are going to be better options, of course. Quite a few people. So obviously, I've seen him quite a lot, and I think that's because there was an SBC, obviously where you got an untradeable version. And I think quite a few people, if they got him and had a Premier League team, which many people do, stuck him straight in.
Yeah, I mean, that is something to bear in mind with all of these players. They're all kind of surprisingly cheap. That Koulibaly is only 25k for probably one of the better centre-backs in that league. And Serie A is quite a high-demand league. And that will be just because pretty much everyone who wanted to could do this AFCON SBC, because I think by late on the weekend it was down to about 7k.
Yeah.
Something like
well
that.
worth waiting for these because it dropped so much.
Yeah. But so that would have just decreased demand because almost everyone would have got one of these cards, and a decent number of them would have got a good one.
Yeah, and you did it, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I got Chancellor Mbemba from Newcastle, Congolese player.
Nice link to Balassi, of course.
Yeah, very nice link to Balassi, and I've got actually FUT champions Dwight Gale.
Oh right, nice.
So that's quite a nice one.
Yeah,
I kind of initially was a little disappointed getting him, but then remembered that and thought there's a funky hybrid I can make there.
Yeah, and obviously you've also got in the Serie A, Balde Daio, who looks really, really good. I mean, 93 pace, 87 dribbling, and I think he's got like maybe 80 strength or something. He could be the sort of Italian league's answer to Martial, possibly. Looks very good. There's also some nice hybriding you can do because he's Senegalese with Moussa Sow, with the man of the match, which would be really nice. And then you've also got... who is it? Of course. They're linked to Abubakar, who's not in this team, but scored an absolutely cracking goal in the final.
To win it in the last minute.
He won it in the last minute, flicked it, so he just flicks it over a player, smashes it in on the volley down into the goal, and I mean that goal sort of secured him man of the match. It's a great goal if you want to have a look at it somewhere on Twitter, but the card looks really good, and I've played with him for a few games, and he's worth a go. He's very cheap at 14k, strong link to Quaresma as well.
Very nice. Cool. Well, I think that's the major ones. Any last player you want to pick out?
There's IU, not bad. Premier League left wing. But, there's both IUs actually. Both IU brothers are in there. One Championship, one in the Premier League. Unfortunately, the Premier League player is the slightly less attractive one due to his pace. But you can still make use of him. Maybe as a left forward, Andre Ayew. But finally, you've also got a player I packed. It's like FAJR, so I'm not sure how to pronounce it. But
Fair, something like that.
Maybe Fajr. I don't know. Apologies to Moroccans. Or is he Tunisian? No, he's Moroccan, isn't he?
I think he's Moroccan.
Yeah, apologies to
any Moroccan listeners, please correct us on our pronunciation. But he's got 4-star.
Yeah. I actually got him, and unfortunately most of his passings in crossing, which is a bit of a shame. But the final player probably is Traore, who used to be at Chelsea. In fact, he's still got his Chelsea kit, and he looks quite good. But yeah, I'm not sure. At right mid, he's quite as effective as he is at strike.
Well, Burkina Faso right mid who plays for Ajax is going to be quite difficult to work into a team.
Very hipster choice, but he has got 4-star skills, which is nice.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty much it, isn't it?
Yeah, that wraps us up on that. Should we move straight on to the winter ones to watch? See if we can have a quick rundown of them.
Let's have a look.
So I mean, the big name in this team has got to be initially the one of the lowest rated. Gabriel Jesus, who started off at 78, but has obviously got himself an inform in the first week that he's in the game. He does it quite nice. 5-star skills, 4-star weak foot. With this inform, his pace gone up to 87. His physical's taken a big jump up to 71, I think, which could be quite significant.
But he's probably one of the few valuable cards in this. I mean, he's like going for something crazy, like he's going up at like 600k for a time. But
he definitely was maybe overhyped. Julian Draxler is a cam, I think, quite a nice looking card there.
And I was saying that's obviously why we had this Draxler left wing with no goals or assists, because it's made this one to watch slightly more appealing.
Yeah, Dimitri Payet, one of the only other cards that's going above basically what is currently sort of discard for these cards, because the SBC is live, so no one to watch card is going for less than kind of 34k. Around there, maybe a little lower,
depending on the rating, basically, because that obviously makes a huge difference. But I mean, there are a few interesting cards. None of them look like too exciting. Obviously, they're not upgraded at all, so there's nothing much to say on the stats. But players like Jovetic could be a really strong Liga Santander striker. Depay, strong link to Lacazette, and he's a sort of left wing. Your only other option on left wing is the informed Draxler, who's quite slow, and Valbuena, who's a bit lacking in pace. Well, slightly lacking in pace and definitely lacking in strength. So he's an option. Balassi linked to Schneiderlin with the Schneiderlin one to watch. Could be nice.
Good shout.
Anything else interesting? There's a Sanson card, which is...
Oh yeah, you spotted this at Marseille CDM, who has actually had a 2-point upgrade for this one to watch card, and looks like quite a nice sort of all-rounder. Though France already has quite a lot of very nice all-round midfielders.
And he's got a high attacking work rate, so not sure, and medium defensive. But yeah, there's a few very interesting cards. Obviously, Nyang left wing got a massive boost in price because people thought he was going to be in the team of the week, and he's dropped a lot now because he's not.
Yeah, shot up, I think, almost to 80k just before the announcement.
Yeah, but he did play well, so there's no reason why he couldn't. So that might be one to pick up as an investment. Kolodisiak is an interesting one just because he fills a niche in that He's a French centre back for the first time in the Bundesliga.
Yeah, that's a really good shout.
Which for hybrid opportunities is quite useful, although he's not the strongest card. Quite small, high attacking work rate, but he looks right. He could definitely do a job in a cheaper team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's sort of it. I mean, there's Ntep, who's now gone to the Bundesliga as well because they needed yet another French winger in that league, and Bailey, Jamaican, who you packed. I think you were saying. Potential to grow into quite a nice card there, just for the pace, if nothing
and got
else.
skills as well. Yeah. Gonzalo Guedes used to be a silver and is now at PSG as a centre forward on the one to watch card. Although I think his default card might be a right mid. Depends on his upgrade. Obviously, that might mean that there's another card coming. But yeah, he looks strong. Be interesting to see. And that's another card which has gone up despite the fact that his default card hasn't gone up.
Yeah.
Suggesting that upgrades are on the way, but they wanted to make this a bit more what's the word? Appealing, I suppose. So yeah, that's quite interesting. And also players like Sanson, it's interesting to note, have received a significant, it's not just one rating boost.
Yeah, that is a good point.
So that people were saying, is it going to affect informs this year? That boost, because obviously they could just drop the upgrade under the inform and then the inform wouldn't change. But it seems like maybe they are going to give a little bit more of a boost.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think we won't know exactly what they're doing until they actually announce them, but that's a promising sign that they may continue the trend that they've done with quite generous inform upgrades by just doing general upgrades as being relatively generous boosts. I think that sort of wraps us up on the ones to watch. Should we move into our player reviews?
Yeah, that's a hat trick of teams done this week, so it'd be interesting to see how often that happens. But it's nice to see so many cards out there. It's certainly got things interesting again after Team of the Year.
Made this a very lucrative week for opening packs if you are that way inclined.
And also for just trading off your 84s and 83s that you might have in your club. Made quite a bit off that.
So Ben, let's move on to Informed Impressions. Who have we got this week?
Well, we've got someone who we highlighted last week actually. Always nice when we can follow up our talk with a bit of actual sort of real review of the actual player rather than just saying their stats look good, because obviously last week we had a Colombian. This week we also have a Colombian, of course, and a strong link. We've got Cuadrado, and he links to last week's Muriel. And I used Muriel. I was using him during the weekend league initially because I was really keen to try out Pjanic. I'd bought Muriel, and then when I realised I could use Muriel and Pjanic, I thought, go on then, I'll risk it and play a game when I got a red card and a injury with a fitness team. I went with Muriel. Sort of striker between two wingers. Had Pjanic and centre mid behind, and I was really, really impressed with this card. I think the big thing that changed it, I put basic on in the first game. He did get, I think, a hat trick anyway, but I just felt that his and this was in weekend league. It was very impressive actually. So I did think he was very good, but I just felt like his finishing wasn't anywhere near strong enough. He's only 78 as default, so I went with Sniper, and we mentioned last week this kind of puts him in the elite tier of dribblers, 89 balance and 99 dribbling, as well as 92 agility and 94 ball control, and it puts his finishing up to 93, which is minimum requirement, and with 84 shot power that's kind of good enough as default. So and I found that, I mean, you've used him as well, so do say if you've got any thoughts on him, but felt like his strength was very decent actually. He kind of bounces off players a bit, and that balance obviously helps as well.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of the balance and the strength definitely help him out. He kind of, if he gets goal side, he's quite good at staying goal side.
He's really hard to stop. And I think the other thing is that kind of speed that he has as sort of default on the card is obviously very impressive. But I also found that his finishing really didn't let me down, despite obviously his default finishing being quite low. So cross keeper shots would really nestle into that far corner, which I quite liked. You could kind of burn a man going kind of across goal and then slot it past the keeper. And in that kind of more lone position up front, I really didn't feel like he was too much of a problem, despite his kind of slightly smaller physical build to most strikers you play.
Yeah, I mean, I used him actually in a different system. I had him in up top in a two-striker setup next to one to watch Higuain, and I think they scored goals at pretty much the same rate. So whether that just tells us a lot about how important pace is this year, I don't know. But he did really impress me actually. I used Sniper as well because I think you need that plus 15 to his finishing really, and extra dribbling is definitely more useful than extra passing on this card. because Deadeye is the other chem style that gives plus 15 finishing.
Yeah.
And I agree in terms of what you were saying about the low driven shots across the keeper. Those are really, really effective. I do find certain players are just incredibly clinical with those and others screw them up. And I don't know whether that's just hitting certain thresholds on finishing or if there's some hidden trait that we don't know about that is to do with that. But no, he was very good at that.
And I think the other thing is he has flair, which I always enjoy in a striker, being able to play those passes off to teammates despite his passing not being amazing. I found he was good enough and perfectly serviceable. And he's also got speed dribbler, which probably helps, and tries to beat defensive line. So he does try and get him behind. But I didn't put him on getting behind just because I kind of knew that, so I thought I'd leave him to his own devices. And that seemed to work quite well.
Yeah.
Especially because getting behind is very draining on stamina.
Yeah.
And he has 70 stamina, but I didn't find it too much of a problem. I don't know.
Interesting, yeah. I didn't find his stamina was terrible, actually. Again, I was slightly expecting that. I did have him on getting behind. And, I mean, maybe in the last kind of 10 minutes of a game, he would fade.
Guess if you did a fitness card, played 2 games, in the second game...
Yeah, in the second game, he might be struggling. But no, it wasn't a huge problem.
Yeah, and actually it's interesting talking about, stamina, links nicely onto a player that you're going to talk about, because he can run for days.
Yeah, so moving on to our player of the week this week. Again, I think I mentioned him last week, or possibly a week or two before that. It's third inform Ericsson. I'm swallowing my Arsenal pride and using a Spurs player.
How much did you get him for?
I got him for about 280, but that's a good point, actually. What did you have to pay for Muriel?
Oh, yeah, so Muriel was just above 20k, I think 27.50 or something, but now he's down just below 20k, as I think you did actually predict last week.
Well, yeah, I suggested he might hit near discard, if not discard, just because he's an 81 rated card.
Yeah, but, and definitely worth that. I I would pay
price,
more for that, I think, that card.
That price definitely pick him up. But yeah, Ericsson cost me 280, and I bought him maybe at a bad time. He is down at kind of 237 on Xbox now.
Most players have dropped.
But most players have dropped. And outside of, I think that was maybe one card that was 237. The rest are maybe closer to 250, actually. But he is such a good card. He's probably the best centre attacking mid card I've used this year. I put Hunter on him because deep down I'm a bit of a pace whore. And he has an acceptable 80 pace by default, but this takes his acceleration up to 97 and his sprint speed up to 87.
Wow.
And with that acceleration boost, it just really means he can get around a man and get a shot away. And with Hunter, his shooting is phenomenal. He gets 99 positioning, 95 finishing, 99 shot power, 95 long shots, 88 volleys, slightly disappointing, and 91 pens. And alongside that shooting, he has the long shot taker trait, as well as takes finesse style free kicks, and a 5-star weak foot. So he can basically shoot and score from anywhere. I've scored all sorts of goals, absolute pile drivers from range, quite a few chip shots. I think that might have just been fluke. Plenty of finesse shots from the edge of the box. Again, he doesn't have finesse shot trait, but he does have 94 curve. So I think that sort of makes up for it. And I've also scored a few free kicks with him. I tend to do driven free kicks with him kind of into the top corner. And I think his 96 free kick accuracy and, as I said, 94 curve really helped with that. But yeah, I mean, Ben brought us onto this through his stamina, and that is unbelievable. He has 99 stamina, and I've used him, I think, for 2 games in a row, and his fitness in the squad view page was still at 92. I think he just doesn't really seem to lose fitness, and he can just run and run and run, and having him in that centre attacking mid role is brilliant because he's got awesome passing stats and great dribbling stats, and you can just always play it through him, and you know that you don't have to worry about kind of sprinting with him too much or trying to do too much with him early in the game, because you know he won't fade later in the game regardless. So definitely one I would recommend picking up.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I'm kind of jealous. I think if I do the Suarez SBC, it will probably rule him out just for chemistry reasons.
Sort of usher in an age of La Liga team.
Yeah, exactly. But no bad thing when Premier League players can be quite overpriced.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's wrap it up there then. I think that's been quite a full pod, and we look forward to seeing you again. Well, not seeing you, of course. In fact, we don't even hear you. But
yeah, we have no feedback at all.
No, we
really,
don't.
Unless you get in touch with us.
Of course, you can get in touch with us on Twitter at FUTweeklyPod. You can also email us. That's footweekly@mail.com. And you can actually also comment on our blog if you fancy it. And finally, if you'd like to subscribe to us, do so at iTunes at the Android app, and the links are on our Twitter page, or also you can just search FUT Weekly or just FUT. I think we come up one of the first results, if not the first, in fact. You can see us there, our faces. I think we're yellow and black. Click on that and you're off, and you'll hear us again next week.
Yeah, look forward to it. Bye-bye.
Bye.